can play with their grandchildren and have fun. I mean, it really it crosses multi-generational, uh, every demographic. I mean, it's really cool to see kind of the melting pot that we have here, where you don't really see that necessarily in a lot of other sports. But yeah, it's a great point.
What do you think the future is of pickleball in Florida and across the country?
Well, Florida has already really become a hub for the high level play. I mean, a lot of the professional players live and train here in Florida. I think with as many snowbirds and retirees that we have down here, it's not going anywhere. I think it's just going to continue to develop and grow. More courts are opening every day, it seems like, across the country. And here in Florida, uh, we're blessed with the weather. I know over the summer it can be hot and rain every day, but thankfully there's more and more indoor facilities like ours that are popping up to kind of help facilitate play year round. So I really don't see it slowing down anytime soon.
What would you tell someone who may be hearing about pickleball, may see it, may be interested in it, but maybe hasn't picked up a paddle yet? What would you recommend to them to kind of get going and encourage them to start playing?
Yeah, well, I'd have to recommend coming to Crush Yard for sure. Every day at 10 a.m. we run a complimentary beginner class introducing players to the game, getting them started, and that's every day at 10 o'clock. I think if you have the right introduction, you meet the right people at the beginning, and you're in a safe, fun environment, you're gonna have a great time. If you go out to a public park and you've never played before, you can run into some people who maybe know what they're doing and are not as willing to get out there with you. But most of our facilities, most facilities around the country are going to have a great beginner introductory class. I'd always recommend starting there.
Evan, quickly tell us where we can learn more about Crush Yard.
Yeah, crushyard.com. You can follow us on Instagram or Facebook as well. Get all of our programming, all of our updates. But the website is definitely the best place to start.
Thanks for joining us this afternoon here on Florida Live. We will see you Monday. Have a great weekend.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good afternoon to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon live on Fox Local and on YouTube. We are following breaking news this afternoon, the death of Jim Lovell, the commander of Apollo 13 and a four-time space flight veteran. NASA making that announcement just a little bit ago, talking about his life and his work that inspired millions. If you've seen the movie Apollo 13, he was the guy that Tom Hanks played, but certainly has left a legacy in the space industry. And we are going to speak with a space journalist and historian, Andrew Chaikin, coming up in just a little bit about that. So we hope you stay with us here on Fox 35 News Plus. It is 4 o'clock, and that means it's time for today's Top 4 at 4, where we break down 4 of the big stories that we're tracking in the Fox 35 newsroom this afternoon. And joining me for today's Top 4 at 4 is Fox 35 News anchor Luann Sorrell. And Luann, thanks for being here.
Yeah, happy Friday, Garrett.
Happy Friday to you. It is almost the weekend. I know it's the last kind of hurrah for a lot of students getting ready for school to start.
Most kids head back to school on Monday, so yeah, they need to live it up this weekend, the last weekend of summer.
Yeah, it is hard to believe it's here already.
I know.
I'm sure they would say the same
thing. Parents are like, yay!
Right, no doubt. Let's start with story number 1 here, and this is an interesting situation that kind of led to a hazmat response in Orange County last night.
It all started about a week ago. Many people have seen this video. It's gone viral on social media. A guy was going door to door. Some say he was selling stuff, and others say no, he was a project manager. He was just informing the community about some new services. Well, needless to say, a couple comes out of their home screaming and yelling at the guy, "Get out of here," using racial slurs, saying, "If you come back, we're going to hang you." Well, that, of course, got a lot of people mad on social media. Well, then yesterday, outside of that same home, a suspicious package shows up. Police locked down the neighborhood, the South Chase neighborhood in Orange County. Someone delivered a package to that home. It created a huge hazmat situation. The neighborhood was blocked off for about 4 hours yesterday. Turns out nothing suspicious was in the package, but they think this all stems from that viral video because now the couple's name, their face, where they work have just been kind of leaked out there to the public. So police are investigating if this is all connected to that video.
Yeah, certainly an interesting situation there. I know this is something that Fox 35's Stephanie Buffamonte has been looking into today, and we'll have more coming up on Fox 35 News in just a little bit. Story number 2, and that is an update on the search for this missing man, this 18-year-old who's been missing now for more than a week.
Yeah, he went missing early last Friday morning. It just vanished out of thin air. His family is here. They're from North Carolina looking for him. They're searching the woods everywhere. To take you back in time, he and his family were here on vacation on the west coast of Florida. And Giovanni Pellentier, who you've seen here, was going to go to meet his biological father and his side of the family. So his cousins went and picked him up. They were driving back over to Brevard County when they say that Giovanni just started acting erratic. He got out of the car. He texted his mom, "Help me," which is really frightening as a mother. And then he's nowhere to be found. So they don't really know where he is, if something happened. But the Brevard County Sheriff says he did not make it to our county. That we know. They also took the cousin's car. They said there's nothing wrong with that. There's no signs of any wrongdoing inside the vehicle. So the mystery continues on where this 18-year-old could be. They said they found his backpack and his cell phone, I believe, but no sign of Giovanni at this time.
Yeah, and those were found in Manatee County. And this is video from earlier this week when family members were searching in Mims in northern Brevard County. And you mentioned what we heard from the sheriff today because of, just a lot of questions about this. As you said, he doesn't think that he ever made it here, but there have been a lot of rumors going around on social media, the sheriff said, and he said that's one thing that's kind of has made this more difficult. Here's what he said.
Information started to spread on social media. Misinformation, I should say. A lot of it was spread on social media, and Charlotte County asked us to go out and check on a car that had, according to what was being said on social media, had been part of this. The car was at a salvage yard. Our team went out, and the car was not part of this. It had completely no connection to this. In fact, everything that we could tell from looking at the vehicle, it hadn't moved in a substantial amount of time.
And so still a lot of questions. He said they've conducted interviews, they've offered resources to help, but they are not the ones leading this investigation because, again, they don't think he ever made it to Brevard County.
And there's now a $25,000 reward leading to Giovanni Pellentier to his whereabouts. So that's out there as well.
Story number 3, and that is some pretty crazy video from a cruise ship, Luann.
So scary. If you've ever been on a cruise, a lot of them have these water slides. Well, a passenger took this video. Part of the acrylic glass in that water slide shattered, and you see the water pouring down from the water slide. We're being told that this happened on the Icon of the Seas yesterday. You can hear people screaming, "Stop the slide, stop the slide," because someone could have fallen out of that if they would have hopped down the slide and, you know, went right out the broken window. One man was injured. We heard from falling glass from that water slide. But yeah, terrifying to think. And this ship is fairly new. It's only like a year and a half old, so this isn't an old ship. Icon of the Seas is, you know, one of the biggest ships out there right now, and it's relatively new. So we're still waiting to hear how this exactly happened. But yeah, not what you want to see when you're on a cruise, definitely.
I'd say that's kind of like your like worst fear of what could happen is you're kind of psyching yourself up to go down one of those slides, and then it happens.
The glass shatters.
Gosh, that is certainly a scary situation. Well, story number 4, and it is National Pickleball Day.
It is.
Are you a pickleballer?
I don't play, but I hear you do, right?
I have. So I don't actually. No, I know there are a
lot of people do
a
here.
lot of people here
Fox
in our newsroom
35,
do.
right?
I used to play tennis quite a bit, so I'm interested in seeing like. How is it different?
Yeah.
You know, tennis, ping pong, like I love things like that. I feel like it's kind of a mixture of both. I want to try it out.
Maybe we should try together because
I
think it's kind of intimidating to try something new you haven't played before. They say it's easier than tennis. I used to play tennis, but I just don't want to be out there like, how do you play again?
Right.
So yeah, maybe we should go and learn the rules together.
Let's do it. We'll read the rule book and try to start playing. But it is something that we have seen just become really increasingly popular.
Yeah, like we said, a lot of people here at Fox 35 play it. You know, Manny Martinez, he's a big pickleballer. Noah Berggren plays. It looks really fun. They say, you know, it's a lot shorter course than tennis, but yeah, it's kind of going crazy. I know a lot of the professional athletes actually own teams, and you know, Tom Brady and LeBron James, and they play, and now it's on TV. There's Manny playing.
How about that?
But yeah, there's also, I was looking at this because your producer Johnny sent me a link to Crush Yard. We have a couple here in Central Florida. This looks super fun. It's kind of like a Dave & Buster's with some pickleball thrown in. So you can go play pickleball. You can also play arcade games. There's a bar. You can get drinks and food. But yeah, this looks like a cool place to hang out if you are into pickleball at all.
And perhaps even more exciting, indoor air-conditioned courts.
Oh, even better. Yeah, I forgot about that part.
That is nice this time of year especially. Now, we talked with the director of pickleball at Crush Yard earlier today about the popularity of the sport, and you know, I asked what the future of that sport looks like here in Florida, and he said this has really become a hub for it. Here's what he said.
Florida has already really become a hub for the high level play. I mean, a lot of the professional players live and train here in Florida. I think with as many snowbirds and retirees that we have down here, it's not going anywhere. I think it's just going to continue to develop and grow. More courts are opening every day, it seems like, across the country. And here in Florida, you know, we're blessed with the weather. I know over the summer it can be hot and rain every day, but thankfully there's more and more indoor facilities like ours that are popping up to kind of help facilitate play year round. So I really don't see it slowing down anytime soon.
And if you didn't know, Orlando does have a major league pickleball team. They're called the Orlando Squeeze, and I absolutely love their logo.
Right, look at that cute little mascot. But yeah, a lot of athletes live here in Florida. I'm not surprised to hear a lot of the big pickleballers do. Tennis players, golfers, you can, you know, play your sport year round. But I think we should take a Fox 35 field trip down to Crush Yard and, you know, get us all in, teach us how to play.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We'll do top 4 at 4 from Crush Yard.
There you go, I'm in.
We learn how to play pickleball. Luann, we appreciate you joining us for today's top 4 at 4. We are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I want to give you a live look. This is a Crew 10 preparing to come home. Splashdown targeted for 11:33 tomorrow morning off the California coast. They're getting ready right now to leave the International Space Station after spending time in low Earth orbit. Hatch closure is scheduled for about 8 minutes from now. Then they are expected to undock a little after 6 o'clock. So we are certainly monitoring that coverage this afternoon from the International Space Station, awaiting the return of Crew 10 aboard a Dragon capsule. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Laurel Blanchard joins me now. And Laurel, it's been a bit of a rainy, stormy day on this Friday.
Yeah, we saw those scattered storms really pick up pretty quickly earlier on today, and we're going to continue to see much more of those storms really pick up as we head into a little bit later on. So taking a look, here's our storm tracker radar. Seeing some storms especially making its way up towards downtown Orlando, kind of following up the I-Drive area, and just very scattered showers and thunderstorms. Some of them picking up a little bit of lightning because of the collision of the sea breezes, but overall seeing much more of those scattered showers and thunderstorms as we wrap up your Friday. And it's very much going to be a rinse and repeat forecast as we take a look at the next couple days. Here's a wider view, and you can see we have a flash flood warning up in Putnam County. Not our viewing area, however, because those areas especially that have been getting hit over and over and over again the past couple days, it's going to lead to a lot of rain in a short amount of time. So you may be seeing a little bit more of the possibility of those flash flood warnings as we take a look a little bit later on today and through the weekend as well. So that's what we're looking at for our radar. But as we wrap up the work week and kick off the weekend, we're really going to continue to see those storms, and some of them may be lingering for quite a while as we head into the late evening hours. Here's a look from our iDrive camera. You can see that rain continuing to fall. Taking a look over Icon Park area, and those clouds are gloomy. So not necessarily the best way to end off a work week and kick off the weekend. And we are going to be, for most students, actually wrapping up summer. This is the last full weekend of summer before schools start to kick back in. And we are going to be seeing quite a bit of rain both Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, he's going to have, everyone's going to have to kind of make the most of that last weekend, but it doesn't look like the weather's going to be that great at cooperating.
Not necessarily the best cooperating, but you will still have like a couple of hours to get out there while it's still sunny. Unfortunately, though, you may need to get up a little bit early, so it's no sleeping in for the last couple days of summer vacation for a lot of students headed back to school, or teachers for that matter. We are going to be seeing those temperatures slowly warm up through the morning, but then once we head into the afternoon and evening, that's when we're going to be seeing those storms really kick in. But be careful if you are planning on heading to the beaches for that last hurrah of summer. It's going to be a little bit dangerous, especially in the water. All that tropical activity that's kind of been hanging off the East Coast for the past couple of days, that's going to really roughen up the beaches. They were high and dangerous yesterday for those rip current conditions, and they're going to continue to stay high and very dangerous through the weekend. So honestly, even the beaches may not be the best way in order to spend the rest of your summer vacation, because even as we take a look, by about 2 p.m., most of the region is going to be covered in rain. We're going to continue to see those rain chances staying high on Saturday as well as through Sunday. Those temperatures, though, heating up quick through the morning. So if you are looking to get out, maybe enjoy a little bit of that sunshine, the morning hours are the day to do so. And overall, for storm threats over the next couple of days, it's going to be very windy, especially as those sea breezes start to kick into gear. Torrential rain like what we're seeing out there right now. So if you are planning on maybe a little bit of a road trip, be careful on the roads. And we're also going to be seeing quite a bit of vivid lightning as well over the next couple of days. So here's the forecast. Storms continuing to stay pretty abundant, especially as we head into the late overnight hours as well. Things slowly trying to calm down a little bit more. Taking a look at your Saturday, seeing almost storms lining the beaches and the coastlines through the morning of your Saturday, and then things slowly starting to make their way towards the peninsula as we head through your Saturday evening. Widespread scattered showers and thunderstorms all across the region as we take a look at your Saturday evening, and that's going to continue into your Saturday night as well. Things pretty much a rinse and repeat on for Sunday. So you can see those storms really almost pushing towards the west coast as we take a look at your Saturday, which is where we're going to be seeing more of the intense storms. So hopefully those stay down towards Tampa as opposed to here in Orlando. So fingers crossed, hoping for the best on that. But 7-day forecast, Garrett, temperature is going to be lingering right around the low 90s. So a little bit of relief from the heat before we do start to see those rain chances amp back up again as we take a look towards next week. But also those temperatures going to start to warm up a little bit more as we see our rain chances come down ever so slightly for the start of the school year.
All right, and now let's talk a little tropics here. It's a time of year where everyone's kind of watching that closely. We have known there are some things to watch out there. What are the updates today?
Yeah, Garrett, so overall, things are slowly starting to lower, which is good news right there. So we're keeping an eye on 2 zones. Dexter is a thing of the past. It's still a pretty strong storm lingering out in the central part of the Atlantic and the northern part of the central. But overall, things are just going to continue to kind of hang out with Dexter. But we're still focusing on 2 zones. So we have that 10% chance just off the coast of the East Coast. And then we're also keeping an eye on this 40% chance in the central Atlantic. So we'll do a quick breakdown of both of those, taking a look, starting off with the zone just off the Atlantic, or the eastern coast. We can see this is going to continue to move off towards the northeast. This is what's going to create dangerous rip currents for even us here in Florida along the east coast as we head through the next couple of days. But this is also set to move into some warmer water, or move out of that warmer water and into some cooler water as we take a look through the weekend. So we can see that 10% chance has been slowly starting to lower over the past couple of days. It was at a 40% chance, and it's just been kind of continuing to downgrade over the past couple of days. But what we've been really watching is this central part, and this has even been beginning to lower because of the same reason. It's going to be slowly starting to move into the potential of some cooler water as it slowly starts to turn northward. So we're going to be continuing to see with that Invest 96L in the central Atlantic, that tropical depression is going to still be possible as opposed to being possible this weekend. Now it's kind of being pushed towards middle of next week, but looking at a 40% chance of development over the next 7 days. But we also like to keep an eye on the future. So as we do take a look, this is the spaghetti models for what we could see with 96L. Most of the models bring it on that northerly track and kind of just keep it in the central Atlantic, which is where we like to see it kept. But overall, we always like to kind of look towards the future. What is the next thing we could be watching? And that is going to be a tropical wave that's trying to make its way off of Africa right now. So as we do take a look here, we're seeing another tropical wave slowly making its way off the coast of Africa, while also keeping an eye on Invest 96L. But this system does have a lot of dust to kind of get through before it has the potential in order to form. But this is, I think, what we're going to be watching next to possibly be our first hurricane threat of the year, is what models are trying to suggest right now, but things are still very well off into the future. So something we're going to be keeping an eye on for that.
All right, Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Laurel Blanchard, we appreciate you joining us and giving us that update. We do want to give you a live look from the International Space Station right now as we await the arrival of Crew 10 preparing to return to Earth. They are supposed to splash down off the coast of California tomorrow morning, and the hatch getting ready to be closed of that Dragon capsule that will bring them home. They are scheduled to undock a little after 6 o'clock. So this is a live look from NASA's coverage from the International Space Station. We are going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I want to give you another live look inside the Dragon capsule, still docked to the International Space Station. They are getting ready to close that hatch, and Crew 10 will be coming back home. They're scheduled to undock around 6:05, scheduled to splash down around 11:33 tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, I also want to give you a live look from our Launch Credit Union camera along Florida's Space Coast. Today's Project Kuiper launch had to be delayed again because of weather. It is now scheduled for tomorrow. But big space news this afternoon coming from NASA's announcement of the death of NASA astronaut and Apollo 13 commander Jim Lovell. And joining us live now to talk about Jim Lovell's life, his actions, his legacy, is Andrew Shakin, who is a space historian and journalist and the author of a number of books, including one of my favorites, A Man on the Moon. And Andrew, really appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thanks for having me.
If you could just kind of give me your initial thoughts when you heard this news of the death of Jim Lovell.
Well, I was sad to hear it. Jim was a giant of the space program, and he was a friend, a longtime friend. And yet I also knew that Jim had had a very rich, long life. And I was very happy that he had been with us this long. I'm sorry to see him go. But, Jim was a remarkable human being in many, many ways. And I think it comes through if you look at his accomplishments as an astronaut, right? I mean, his very first mission, Gemini 7, in December of 1965, he and Frank Borman, his commander, they became the first humans to spend 2 weeks in space. Now, this was absolutely critical if we were going to go to the moon, because up until that time, nobody had really shown that humans could survive in space in the condition of weightlessness for that length of time. And a moon mission could easily end up taking, a minimum of 8 days, maximum of maybe 12 days, something like that. So this was a pivotal moment. And Jim and Frank Borman spent 2 weeks inside Gemini 7. Now you have to understand, this is a capsule with a cabin no bigger than the interior of a Volkswagen Beetle, the front seat of a Volkswagen Beetle, side by side in that little capsule, going around the world over and over and over again for 2 weeks. By the end of it, they were just drifting to conserve fuel. And, Jim just took it in stride. He never showed any sign of strain. Frank was kind of worried about whether they'd last the full 14 days. And if they came down off target, would the Navy, would they be recovered okay? And Jim said, "Don't worry, Frank." He was a Navy guy. Frank was Air Force. He said, "Don't worry, Frank. The Navy will get us." And they splashed down and they brought him on the ship. And they opened the hatch and Jim said, "We're engaged." So he brought his sense of humor to that. The next thing I think of was Jim's third space flight on Apollo 8. Of course, he and Frank Borman again and Bill Anders became the first humans to leave Earth orbit and go out all the way to the moon. And they were the first humans to see the planet Earth as a planet and to go around the moon and see the far side of the moon with their own eyes. And so many times during that flight, and I remember watching it as a 12-year-old kid glued to the TV, it was Jim's voice that was coming to us from all that distance, sharing his impressions of the flight. I will never forget during a TV show that they transmitted with the Earth through this very crude black and white camera, he described the Earth as a grand oasis in the vastness of space. Beautiful, poetry coming from an astronaut on this historic flight. And then finally, of course, the Apollo 13 mission, when Jim and his crew, Jack Swigert and Fred Hayes, had to go into a survival mode after an oxygen tank exploded on their mothership. And they had to shut the whole thing down, but not before they were able to activate their lander as a lifeboat. And anybody who's seen the Apollo 13 movie that's a great way to learn that incredible story. And again, it was Jim's steadiness, his calmness. He was, even the guy who got left behind on that flight, Ken Mattingly, because of a case of German measles, which turned out he didn't have, but they replaced him at the last minute. He said to me, you could not have asked for a better commander in that situation. So, Jim really made his mark as a space pioneer.
What do you think it was about him that made him so able to handle all of those things with that calm under pressure that we saw in those situations you mentioned, but especially when you're talking about what happened with Apollo 13?
I just think it was the man's makeup. And he used to say that in interviews. He used to talk about this when interviewers would say, what does it take to be an astronaut? And he would say, you want somebody who's able to be in a life-threatening situation and not lose their head, not lose their composure, not be rattled by the risks they're confronting. I think Jim was the epitome of that kind of person that they selected as astronauts for those pioneering missions. And of course, we still see that kind of personality today. But nothing reveals the character of a person more than being under the kind of stress and really prolonged stress that Jim and his crew were under on that Apollo 13 mission. He really was unflappable.
What is Captain Lovell's legacy?
Well, certainly as a space pioneer, I also think about the ways that Jim was broad in his appreciation of space flight. He appreciated the science. The motto on his Apollo 13 patch, which he adapted from the Naval Academy, was "From the Moon Knowledge," which reflected the scientific nature of that mission. As I mentioned, he was somebody who could see the poetry in spaceflight, but yet he was a very talented astronaut technically. And then he was a great communicator. He was somebody who could enjoy telling the stories and talking to people about it for decades afterward. I mean, when I sat down and interviewed him in 1987, it was almost 20 years after Apollo 8. And it was just a delight. And I think beyond that, I think he made his mark in the business world, which is not necessarily an easy thing for somebody to do, to make that transition. And if you read the tribute from his family, which is on the website of the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation, it's clear that he was a wonderful father, a wonderful granddad. They called him the leader of the family. He was just an exemplary human being.
And you mentioned you knew him personally. How will you remember him, or do you have any favorite stories of his?
Well, I am very blessed because I grew up watching these missions as a space fanatic. And then as an adult, I came to become a storyteller of space and a storyteller of Apollo. And Jim was so wonderful to me and so generous with his time and his recollections. And as I say, we did have a friendship that extended through the decades. And my wife and I had the great pleasure of visiting him on occasion and having dinner with him and his wife, Marilyn, at one time at the restaurant that was operated by his son, who was a chef. And that was a great experience. And I just, I remember little things like we exchanged letters about something at one point, and he put in a little bit of verse, a little rhyme from Lewis Carroll to open the letter, which was just another indication of his broadness. I just always enjoyed hearing his voice. I always enjoyed the chance to talk to him and connect and maybe hear a story or two. He was just a pleasure,
Last thing I'll ask you here, we know that the future of space exploration looks certainly a different bit of a landscape now than before, but I'm curious what we can learn from Captain Lovell and his career and his life as we continue to move forward in that frontier of space?
I think the lesson that I would take from Jim that is really relevant is you don't shy away from taking risks, but you don't take risks in a reckless fashion. Jim was a very hard worker. He prepared diligently for his missions. He was not a seat of the pants kind of winging it kind of guy. He understood the risks, but he also understood the relationship that you needed to have with the people in mission control before you fly so that you know that you're in good hands. He was an engineer, of course, so he could approach it from that standpoint as well. I think the lesson that I take from Jim and many of the other Apollo guys is take the risks, but take them with your eyes open and with the necessary due diligence that is required to carry out spaceflight successfully and safely.
Andrew Jagan, a space historian and journalist, author of a number of books about the Apollo missions. Really appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus and remembering Jim Lovell with us this evening.
Thanks again.
We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back. Andrew, thank you so much.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. A relatively new flooding fix in the city of Sanford has already appeared to have some issues this week with heavy rains. Fox 35's Chris Lindsay joins us live now via Zoom. And Chris, I know you had the chance to speak with the Sanford mayor to find out a little bit more about what happened here.
Yes, there was some heavy rain on Tuesday. They got several inches within an hour, and there were a couple of businesses that were at risk because of this. So they have these lift stations. There are 3 of them. This was $1 million project to sort of alleviate the flooding issue. What they do is they compile some of the water and then they pump it out of the area. One of the 3 lift stations was set up improperly by the contractor that they were working with, so it didn't work. There's a second one that they had not finished the grading of the land there, so it wasn't level. and it overloaded that system. There are two businesses, Hollerbox, which is a German restaurant. They had to pump water. They had to put out sandbags and whatnot to prevent water from going into their business. Thankfully, they were able to. However, there was a second business, Brulando, that did get water inside of their building. They've since been able to get it out and are doing some maneuvers to make sure that their possessions and property is okay, but that's what's been happening. The mayor says that this was a mishap, that this was a one-time thing, hopefully, and that next time they get heavy rain, things will not happen like this.
Why does he think that this won't happen again?
Well, with that first site, it was just a matter of they did something wrong when they were setting it up, so that they believe that the work that they did to fix that will stick. So they've come back in, they've reconfigured whatever setting was off, and they believe that the next time it rains in the manner that it did on Tuesday, that it will catch the water and do with it what it's supposed to do. As for the second one, the crews hadn't finished doing their work, so it's a poor timing sort of issue as opposed to a mishap or a mistake that was on the first site. So when the work is done on that one, they're expecting it to work properly. In this instance, it did work properly, but because the ground wasn't leveled out, the water didn't go where it was supposed to go, and it just got overloaded. So they believe that once that ground is leveled out and then you get a heavy rain like it did the other day, that things should work, and these lift stations, what they call them, will compile the water and get it out of the area.
Quite the scene in that video, that cell phone video that we're showing. So I am sure those business owners as well downtown are hoping that it works a little better next time too.
Certainly, and according to Rosemarie, who sent that video, and this was when things had improved, so they were a lot worse than they are in that video, according to her.
Well, Fox 35's Chris Lindsay, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thank you.
We are also following up on a story out of Flagler County where the Flagler County Sheriff is fighting to extradite a former Volusia County Schools maintenance worker to face sexual abuse charges here. That suspect now lives in North Carolina. Was charged with sexually assaulting his neighbor who was under the age of 10 back in 2006 to 2009. Chris Lindsay had the chance to speak with the Flagler County Sheriff earlier today about the fight to extradite him back to face those charges.
So the investigation started in 2015 when it was reported to us that the victim in this case had been molested by a former neighbor when she was between the ages of 6 and 9. And it's a very difficult case when it's reported, years later of this offense, because it's difficult to get the forensic evidence that you need. And so it pretty much went cold. And in 2023, some new evidence came up because the suspect in this case had re-engaged the victim and had provided some information that we could verify and became more evidentiary of value. So we started re-investigating it and using every tool that we had in the book to try to get justice for this victim, because this guy was a pervert that took advantage of the situation. And ultimately we were able to get a warrant with 2 capital crime cases, $500,000 bond, which you don't see very often, but that's how serious this crime was. He had moved to North Carolina. We worked with the Macon County Sheriff's Office. They arrested him, brought him to jail. We thought we would be extraditing him back. A magistrate up there reduced the bond to $35,000. He bonded out and then set a extradition hearing on September 8th. I've been doing this, Chris, for 50 years in law enforcement. I have never seen a fugitive from justice handled this way. This not only is a travesty of justice, but it victimized our victim all over again. She's been waiting 10 years for justice. We finally get the case to where we can make an arrest, and then he's let go. And, you know, he has the right, when you are arrested, if the bond is $500,000, you can bond out at $500,000. But for this judge, basically not knowing any of the facts of the case, to just reduce this bond to $35,000. We have spoken with the victim, and she is furious with this judge, and I stand right there with her, because this is total bullshit what this judge did. He should have been held in the jail in Macon County, North Carolina. If he wants to fight his extradition, fine, fight your extradition from jail. Or waive it, and we'll come get you and bring you back to Florida, to Flagler County, to face your charges. But don't victimize now a young adult twice.
So now you said there's a hearing on the 8th. What does this mean for the process moving forward?
Well, right now, the process means if he shows up in court, okay, which could be an if. I mean, he's facing, the law now, this is a death penalty case. Now, it wasn't a death penalty case when these crimes occurred, so he's not facing a death penalty, but he's potentially facing the rest of his life in prison in Florida. And so what will happen now, if he shows up, he will have to decide if he's going to fight the extradition to Florida or waive it. If he fights it, this could be 30 days to 4 months process. And ultimately, the state of Florida would get a governor's warrant, give it to the governor in North Carolina. And I've never seen governor to governor where they don't authorize somebody, especially a heinous crime like this, to not be brought to Florida. So I don't think he's not going to get away with it. It's just he has certainly impacted the victim all over again. But more importantly, to me, I've arrested fugitives from justice. I've never seen a judge reduce a bond. Usually what another judge does is what that judge will follow on these kind of cases. In Florida, you are generally held as a fugitive from justice, no bond, until the extradition process is done.
And we've had multiple of these sort of cases where, you know, time goes by, but you guys, that doesn't really mean much for your department. What do you have to say on that front, that even if it's 10, 15, in this case, almost 20 years later, you're still pursuing it and you're still making...
Well, we have a cold case unit that looks at homicides that haven't been solved, missing people that haven't been solved, and sex crimes that haven't been solved. In this case, when the victim came back to us, because now this investigation started, I was not sheriff. And when this guy reconnected, or tried to reconnect with her, when she didn't want anything to do with him, and she called us. And because of their communication, and it was text, we were able to build a case. And it's a good case. You know, you'd always love to have the DNA and the forensics, but in an old case like this, you're just not going to have it, especially the way these crimes were perpetrated.
Certainly. Is there anything else you have to add, or any message for community members as it relates to this case or cases like it?
Well, I would say continue to never give up on your case. Get your law enforcement agency to go as far as they can, and if new evidence comes up, let them know about it so they can reopen the case. As far as our victim, I want her to know that I will stand there with her, and we're going to fight this judge in North Carolina and get this guy back to face the charges for what he did to this victim.
Flagler County Sheriff Rick Staley earlier talking with Fox 35's Chris Lindsay. We are going to take another break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we will be right back after this, so keep it here. As we go to break, look at some of these dark clouds over Orlando right now. And in fact, give me 1 second here and I will show you another live look in another part of Orange County. If you look toward the tourist district, You can see rain coming down pretty good along International Drive. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Last night, the UCF football team held its first scrimmage of the season. They're just 3 weeks out now from the season opener against Jacksonville State. There are still multiple position battles going on, including that QB position battle. We talked about it yesterday a little bit with Sean Green. If you missed that interview, you can find that right now on Fox Local and on fox35orlando.com. But that's just one of those position battles that we know the Knights are dealing with. After the game last night, head coach Scott Frost said he liked some of what he saw, but there is still some work to do.
You know, there was some good and some bad in the scrimmage, which you'd expect. I was pleased. We started with goal line, talk about a couple of the positive things. We started with some live goal line, and I thought they showed up ready to go. Defense held offense out on 3 straight plays from there in there tight, and you don't do that unless you're ready to play. I heard some pads pop in, so it was good to see that kind of fight from them and that willingness and readiness to go. Thought the kickers kicked well, which was good to see. I don't get to watch as much of that, and our 2 field goal kickers did a really good job. But beyond that, you know, there's always positives and negatives to take, learning lessons from early scrimmages, and the guys were nice enough to provide us with a lot of things we can learn from. There were some really good things that happened and a lot that we need to improve.
Scott, going to quarterbacks, were they live, and what did you see from that group?
Yeah, I was live when I was a quarterback in college, and I don't know how much that happens anymore. It's just not worth it. So they did a good job today. You know, it's still a competition. All 3 of them have done really good things and done some things that I think we can improve. Would love to start having that idea of who that's going to be gel in my mind, but we're not there yet, and we're not going to force that. So there'll be more opportunities to compete. Every play counts. And it was good to see Cam back out. Cam must be like a major league pitcher. He had a little bit of a lat strain just from throwing a little bit. So we held him out, but he was back in there. So all 3 got some good reps and did some good things tonight.
You said decide on that person. Are you open to more than one quarterback, multiple quarterback system as the season gets underway?
Yeah, I'm open to whatever gives us the best chance to win. So if that's one guy, we're going to ride. If we're not sure and more than one guy deserve an opportunity to play, then I guess we'll go that way. I've never really had that situation, but if that's where we are, then that's where we are. So whatever gives the team the best chance, we're going to do.
Coach, which player or position group stuck out the most to you in the scrimmage?
You know, the first thing you worry about as a coach in a scrimmage like that is that you improve and get out of it healthy. I think we had a couple little minor things today, but nothing major, so that makes me happy. You worry about tackling well in the open field, because you can only do so much live tackling per rules, and if you're smart, not getting guys hurt. And I thought for the most part the tackling looked crisp and sharp. There were some broken tackles and good plays on offense, but I thought we tackled pretty well, and that gives me hope. I think the front seven did a really good job with the ones, if I was going to point to a group. We were kind of behind the chains on offense quite a few drives because those guys were really stout in the run game and on drive starters. And we got some talent up there, so it's good to see them execute like that and play to their potential.
You talked about, you know, the scrimmage giving you something to learn from. As far as just kind of globally, what is the goal of a scrimmage like this at this stage of camp, and then did you feel like you accomplished that goal?
Well, every practice matters, and this isn't more important than another practice, but when you're out under the lights and it's live, there's probably a little more priority put on the evaluation of that than just a normal practice. My message to the team afterwards, you know, you can look really good on 5 or 6 plays out of an 8-play set in a normal practice. But that's different than game reps. And if your 5 out of 8 or 6 out of 8 are good, but your other 2 are catastrophic, then you're going to kill drives. And either way, defensively or offensively, it's going to ruin everything else you did. So we need to get more consistent with our speed and the precision of our execution. It's not unlike any team I've ever coached, but some of the lessons that we're trying to teach them, they kind of listen but don't really apply it, and it costs you when it matters and when there's real referees out there and the clock's running. So hopefully we'll be able to get those messages across after this scrimmage.
Coach, you mentioned that the quarterbacks, you want them to make your job easier in terms of stepping up, and it's something that you'll notice, that the team will notice. I'm not going to ask you who stepped up, but is somebody stepping up? Would you say that there is somebody who's making progression towards that?
I'd say all 3, which is a cloudy answer, I understand, but I actually had a talk with Coach Grinch and some of the defensive guys today and asked them what they thought, and they're watching their guys. They're not really watching quarterbacks, but Coach Grinch's comment was, well, all 3 of them are a lot better than they were in spring. And I agree with that. Really, it probably is going to come down to who can make plays without turning the ball over and who can take care of the football for us. And they've all 3 had little hiccups with that, for the most part, done a good job.
I know Isaiah Reed's been banged up a little bit. Was he able to participate in the scrimmage? And maybe when's he going to be ready to go for you guys?
No, we got a few guys with some soft tissue injuries. Isaiah's missed some time. Caden Peening's missed some time. Kozlowski's missed some time. Also, Tavion got tweaked yesterday, and we're trying to evaluate that, and Swint trying to figure out the severity of that and what our next step is with him. So it's been a good camp. We've stayed mostly healthy, but we've had a few guys nicked up here and there.
How did you structure things with the quarterbacks? Was there one guy on the first team tonight? Did you mix it up, and what was the order?
No, they've been mixing it up, taking turns, even rotation, so they get some shots with the guys that are running with the first team and guys that are running with second team. And that's not the only position battle, so there's good players on both teams for guys to work with. But it was an even rotation, has been all camp.
As head coach Scott Frost last night speaking after that first scrimmage of the season. Again, their first game of the season scheduled for the 28th against Jacksonville State. Well, we were getting ready for the start of Fox 35 News at 5. Let me give you a live look inside Studio A where John and Luann are getting ready for that. There is golf coverage on Fox 35 right now. If that goes over, we'll be with you a little bit longer. Keep it here on Fox Local, though. More news is next.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday evening now, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Live golf coverage continuing on Fox 35 right now, live from Chicago. So we've got a few more minutes with you while that wraps up. It appears they are on their final hole, so it won't be too much longer before we'll get you out to Studio A and Fox 35 News at 5. But we do want to talk a little bit more about opposition growing to this recently passed state law. We're talking about Senate Bill 180. That was a law that was designed to improve disaster recovery, trying to expedite the process of post-disaster rebuilding by streamlining some permitting requirements and a number of other steps. But now there's another organization that wants the state legislature to repeal a part of that law. This afternoon, I spoke with Mitch Perry, who's a senior reporter with the Florida Phoenix, to talk about the controversy surrounding part of that law.
Year. Nick DeSegli, the bill sponsor from Pinellas County, which was devastated by Hurricane Helene last fall. And so he saw, living in one of the beach communities there, in his opinion, a lot of the local governments there were just not ready to handle the situation in terms of permitting, helping people start to, get back to recovery with their homes, et cetera. People were not there. Because some of these local governments, small beach communities, for example, in Pinellas, they don't even necessarily are there apparently 8 to 5 every day. That's what Nick said anyway. He heard from a lot of his constituents about it. So that was the way the bill was designed to, streamline permitting, making sure people could get repairs done without, expending too much money. That was the intent. And what happened, though, the controversy is not over the entire bill. It's over this one provision, basically, which allows it's regarding land use. And it basically says any county that was affected by the storm, and essentially it's talking about every county in the state, they're like the redevelopment plans, there's certain plans, land use things can be challenged. And if it's considered, quote unquote, burdensome, restrictive or burdensome, then again, there can be a lawsuit filed against that. Against the local government, and local governments throughout the state are really objecting to this. They weren't really aware that this is going to be part of the law. They weren't, their lobbyists weren't really telling about that. And it was kind of apparently, according to Nick DeSegli, at one point it was taken out of the bill, and then some people said, had to go back in. So it's creating a lot of havoc. And as you mentioned, 1,000 Friends of Florida came out yesterday and said they want that specific provision to be removed when the legislature reconvenes next year.
And that specific language you're talking about, the restrictive or burdensome land use or development regulations, that applies even if it's unrelated to storm recovery. So we're seeing pretty far-reaching impacts of this.
Yeah, in fact, I put this in the story out there in your area in Orange County. This is not even an individual, person who challenged the local government. It was actually the state of Florida, the Department of Commerce, who notified Orange County that its new Vision 2050 comprehensive plan, which was taking years and a lot of money involved with that, was null and void, essentially, because it was providing a new comprehensive plan, and it was in violation of the new law. And I read the letter that the Department of Commerce person said, and he didn't really specify what was the particular problem, just basically said that you can't really do this. You're one of the counties that's affected by it. I know Orange County is going to go back with them, and hopefully they can fix this and work it out, right? Because again, there was a lot of work done on that. But yeah, because basically it says it goes back to when the storms happened in October of last year, and then it goes forward for several years. Now, again, Senator DeSegli, I've heard him say basically that he's seen other communities maybe take advantage of the situation after a storm and raise permit, make it much more harder for developers to do certain projects that maybe they would be able to do easier. And this is, they use the reason of we're coming out of the post-storm issue. And so he was thinking I don't want them to be able to do that. We should allow natural, developers to continue to do their thing. But it's so restrictive. The language in the law, I think, is what's really a problem for these local governments, and they're concerned that they can't really do much going forward. And Eric, a lot of these local governments, that's a lot what they do basically is land use, and so you're almost in a way taking it out of their own hands, and that's why they have a big problem with this.
So how are they adapting right now, Mitch? I know you kind of looked at several different localities.
Yeah, well, in some ways, what they're doing, they can't really do much. And we've seen this with other laws, like the Live Local Act, if you might recall from a couple of years ago, that has since in Tallahassee, the last 2 years, has gone back and amended parts of that. That's what it's going to happen, probably, I would think, next year. But again, the legislature does not get together until January. They have committee meetings in the fall. In terms of what these local governments are doing, they're thinking about suing. I talked to one Deltona city commissioner yesterday. The city commission has not acted on this. They may or may not do it, but they're going to talk about this at one of their next meetings. There's an attorney in Fort Lauderdale who is working with local governments and trying to collect, as many who want to be involved with this, so that there will be probably a lawsuit filed maybe in September about this. That's really all they can do right now, essentially. Is there any indication that the state legislature might take a closer look at this or look at kind of making some changes? I think so. I mean, I think that what Senator DeSeglia, and I didn't put this in the story actually, he has already talked about the fact that in the law itself, it talks about an OPAGA study. OPAGA is like a policy group that kind of reviews legislation, makes recommendations. They are going to look at this. So when I've heard him speak to the St. Pete City Council a month ago, and he was already aware a month ago that there were concerns from local governments about this. It's only gotten much louder since then. So I think that he himself is very aware. So, we've seen this in Tallahassee when there's so much confusion, so much concern about how it's going to hurt local government that the legislature will go try to amend it in some way. I will also say, though, that there's a lot of resentment among some local legislators about this because they say this is another kind of a preemption law, right? Where Tallahassee takes the power away from local governments from what they should know best to do when it comes to managing the growth of their own local community. They say that's essentially been taken out of their hands by the state law. And that was one of the arguments we actually heard from some county commissioners in Orange County earlier this week at one of those news conferences. Kelly Martinez-Simrad, one of those commissioners, kind of decrying the state overreach, as she called it, because of that law. And just one example, she had several, but that law that led to the basically striking down of Vision 2050, the county's comprehensive plan that Mitch Perry was talking about. And I would encourage you to read his piece as well on Florida Phoenix that goes into some more of the details about that and some other localities as well. He talked to some in Volusia County in that story as well. So we're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus. It appears golf coverage still kind of in its end stages on Fox 35 right now, but they are still going at the moment. So that means we will continue going with you here on Fox Local until Fox 35 News at 5 begins. So we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back after this. As we go to break here, I'll give you a minute to look at our camera above International Drive in the tourist district of Orlando. Rain coming down pretty good there and pretty dense clouds. So keep it here on Fox Local. More news is next.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Weimer, and thanks for joining us on this Friday evening, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Live golf coverage live from Chicago, still continuing right now on Fox 35, and so we will be with you here on our live stream until the start of Fox 35 News at 5. I hesitate calling it Fox 35 News at 5 because we don't really know what time it's going to start, but that's okay. Fox 35 News will be joining you eventually upon the conclusion of that coverage, but right now you're in good hands with us here inside our streaming studio. One of the stories we've been following quite a bit over this past week is the disappearance of 18-year-old Giovanni Pelletier, who was on vacation with his family in Charlotte County, who, according to his family members and what they told investigators, he had left Charlotte County early Friday morning, kind of the overnight hours, 1:30 in the morning, to go visit other family in Brevard County. Never made it. Some of his belongings were found in Manatee County. Some of his family members held a search earlier this week in Mims in the northern part of the county. But today, Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey held a news conference and said that there's no indication, there's no evidence that he ever actually arrived in Brevard County. And so Sheriff Ivey talked about some of what their investigation found as conducting interviews, offering resources to help, but things that he wanted the community to know, as there still are a lot of questions surrounding that 18-year-old's disappearance.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I want to just get with each of you. We've had a lot of questions about our agency's involvement in Giovanni Pelletier, the missing person out of Charlotte County. First thing I want to clarify is we are not the lead agency on this investigation. Charlotte County is the lead agency on this investigation. There are some parts of it that dip into Manatee County, but the only connection to Brevard County is that the 3 young men that went over to Sarasota County are from Brevard County. There's no indication whatsoever, no evidence, no indication in any capacity that Giovanni Pelletier ever came to Brevard County. In fact, just the opposite. Things at this time demonstrate that he was not here. So our agency has been involved. We were reached out for by the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, asked to go interview the 3 young men that were over in their county that had picked Giovanni up. We sent, when they first called, it was August 1st, and our deputies went out, talked to one of the individuals, conveyed back to Charlotte County what information they had developed. The following day, information started to spread on social media, misinformation, I should say. A lot of it was spread on social media, and Charlotte County asked us to go out and check on a car that had, according to what was being said on social media, had been part of this. The car was at a salvage yard. Our team went out, and the car was not part of this. It had completely no connection to this. In fact, everything that we could tell from looking at the vehicle, it hadn't moved in a substantial amount of time. The brake pads were all rusted. Everything, the car had not moved. So, but as part of our assistance with them, as part of us offering any resources to them we could, we actually sent agents to go interview the 3 young men. We've not only interviewed them, we've interviewed other members of the family. We've also recovered the actual vehicle that was that the boys were driving, and that vehicle, the family gave it to us, said, take it, do whatever you need to do with it. We did. We took it. We had our crime scene team go through it and reported back to Charlotte County that there was no evidence of any type of wrongdoing that was part of it. So. You know, as you guys have probably seen in some of the stuff going on, some of the news reports, some of his items, a backpack, a school bag, and a telephone were found on the interstate over in Manatee County, I believe it was. But there's nothing to indicate he ever came to Brevard County. In fact, just the opposite from the witness statements that we've had and any evidence that Charlotte County's been able to collect. So we continue to offer our assistance to them. We will, as always, be great partners. Some people have asked, why aren't you guys?
So that was the Brevard County Sheriff there giving an update. Still, again, a lot of questions about what happened, and we will continue to monitor this. coverage on Fox 35 is wrapping up, so we are getting ready to hand things off to Fox 35 News, which is scheduled to start a little bit late because of that golf coverage, but John and Luann are ready for that newscast there inside our brand new Studio A, looking good there. And so Fox 35's Storm Team meteorologist Laurel Blanchard is going to have the latest forecast for you as well. So we are going to wrap up our coverage here on Fox 35 News at 5. And as we do so, I will leave you with this view of Port Canaveral on this Friday evening. Looks nice, the water looking calm there, some darker clouds in the sky as we continue to track those chances of storms this afternoon and this evening. Thanks.